Hello, this is Libertarian Overwatch, and we are going to be doing our weekly intel drop for March 27th. This is getting recorded a day late. Um, just hadn't quite gotten around to it at the time, still working on a bunch of different articles, working at a full-time job, all sorts of things. But for all the new subscribers who have just arrived after seeing the interview with Scott Horton, I wanted to thank everyone for seeming to like that interview, and just the support it's gotten has been really phenomenal. A lot of people were very, very kind in the praise in the comment section and things like that, which is great because in my head I thought I sounded like an idiot. So I'm glad I got I got some people who said, "Wow, that was very interesting stuff." So yeah, really grateful. Really appreciate it. It was really awesome to be able to do an interview with Scott, who, gosh, an encyclopedia is an understatement. He's able to pull out you know, articles from 1998. It's in this page of this book. Yeah, so it was really, really an honor. Hopefully in the future we might be able to talk about the Maidan once we get there, because at this point, I think that my article for the Maidan might span across like 4 to 6 different 1,000-page tomes, because that's kind of where we're at right now. Recently, I've been working on my article for Azerbaijan. And initially I said, this will probably be a short one, so I can do a little short one before we start to get into Belarus. Oh no. That one is about the length of the Lebanon article, which if you have checked that one out, that one reads it kind of shows you on Substack how long it'll take to read. That one was 20 minutes of reading time. So that's kind of the pace we're at right now. Very dense, but hopefully it's not at a point too long. I know myself when I'm reading certain articles on Substack every week, even from sources and people that I really enjoy, it can get kind of dense and long at times. So if they do get too long, let me know. Um, but that's all, some background information. Let's focus. Let's stay focused on what we're talking about today. So yeah, we're just going to recap our top three articles that caught my interest this week. So the first one we have here is from the man who actually preceded me on the Scott Horton show, and that's Larry Johnson. And the article is looking like Donald Trump is serious about putting U.S. boots on the ground in Iran. Now, if you're unfamiliar with Larry Johnson, he is a former CIA analyst, and he has done a really great job of being able to discuss the specifics behind certain things, especially when it comes to weapons, when it comes to different tank types, when it comes to airplane types. Um, Very, very much so knows this stuff. So this article is the one that kind of stood out to me this week, but I have liked quite a few of his articles from this week. I'm actually going to pop these over right here for us to see it. Um, this one right here was another good one, and I also enjoyed this one. But this one is the one that I think stood out to me the most because he does a really, really great job with some awesome journalism of just being able to connect the dots and things like that and figuring out here's what I think this event means and being able to interpret it in a way that's very understandable. Um, so at the start is where he's doing like a lot of that interpretation and things like that, and then as we get down here, it definitely gets a lot more dense, I would say. Um, but it does give you those specifics that you may be looking for. So this middle part, like I said, it can read very dense, but I think especially at the start and as well as the end, where it's able to kind of recap what essentially all of that text in the middle there means, um, does just a really fantastic job. And I do plan on watching some of his interviews that he's been doing here. Because yeah, I mean, he just has a really great analyst. I think when it comes in terms of the war currently happening, I think between him and Dropsite have been doing some of the best reporting on it. And with Dropsite, I would say the Dropsite is more so looking at the kind of human elements of war. They do a really good job of, talking to people on the ground who are in the middle of these war zones, and I mean, it's just some pretty horroring and scary stuff, that they talk about in there. But I think from a military perspective, Larry is definitely your guy to look at for different articles about this. All right, let's go to our next one. So this one is a crazy one if you just look at the title there. But yeah, so it's talking about how JD Vance tries to justify the continued Iran war by suggesting Iran could make a nuclear suicide vest. Um, Gosh, I just don't know where to start with this stuff. Um, if you were to take a timeline and kind of look at the start of the war and to now, with just the amount of times that the kind of the context behind it has changed, it's really pretty astounding. Um, and speaking of that, if you see Treasury Secretary, um, I think last week it was on Meet the Press maybe that he said that he's jujitsuing the Iranians by selling Iranian oil. Um, I don't know. I don't know. it's it's a wild time to be alive, ladies and gentlemen. But basically, this one we are looking at JD Vance, and he is talking about how I guess just alleging that they will be able to make nuclear bombs on vests. And it was in a cabinet meeting. It's on video and everything. And the day it came out, I just saw everyone on Twitter or X, whatever you want to call it, um, mentioning it, and it's just really wild. I mean, Vance is the one who, if we recall back to the Signalgate kind of thing with Mike Waltz and everything like that, Vance seemed to be the voice of reason, and even still, it was like, hey, I just don't think I'll sign off on this, but if you guys all agree, I'll do it anyways. Um, but with the Iran issue, it seems that there's a definite more hawkish kind of turn there. Um, yeah, we'll see where all this goes. The one good thing I need to knock on wood over here. As of 6:44 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, there has been no troop presence at Karg Island, which I know has been the discussion point all this week. So hopefully we maintain with that. But we'll just keep updating. We'll keep recalling on these different types of news articles and kind of see where we go from here. And the next one here is my article, Russiagate Revisited. And maybe it's because I'm egotistical. Not really. I do want to just point out the great journalisms from some of these journalists that I hold in high regard, or especially just their different works in high regard. Um, so if we scroll on down, and I think one of the things I like the most about articles like this is that I'm able to just go back and read really great journalism. For those who have been around since I started back in December. December is when I first started, and then January is when I did the top 10 Seymour Hersh articles. And it was just great going back and reading some of those Cy Hersh articles and just the amount of sourcing he has and things like that, and just the stories and how ahead of the time a lot of them were. So with this one, we were able to go back and read a lot of articles in regards to Russiagate, which I thought was really great. So kind of looking on down here, Paul Sperry's, which was also covered in the New York Post, which was a very interesting one. Gareth Porter, which Gareth Porter's got a lot of great journalism. I've been going back in the archives for Consortium News for a while now, and especially like his 2017 Syria coverage around the time of the election, which I am noticing now there is a red dot right there, but okay, that's all right. But yeah, his has been great. Aaron Mate has always been great, and I always point this out. Is it's not just people on on the MAGA side or the conservative side calling out Russiagate for what it is. It is Aaron. I mean, he's very against a lot of the actions that Trump has been taking, not even just recently, just in both presidencies. So I think it's important to note. Taibbi's article is fantastic. Got a lot of great material in there. Um, this. I kind of wanted to talk about this briefly. If you don't know what this is, there was a TV intrusion in 1987 where a guy showed up in a Max Headroom costume, didn't make any noise, just buzzed and kind of danced around, and then they were on a different Chicago channel like 2 hours later. And it's just really weird, strange stuff. I don't know what it is about this video, but it's creepy. It's really creepy. Um, but I was kind of linking it and how it goes to how Russia was blamed for a lot of wild things during their whole Russiagate fiasco and things like that. And then the top one here we have is the Jeff Girth article, which if you haven't read this one, absolutely should read. He has a lot of great access. He interviewed Trump himself. He reached out to Michael Isikoff, who was responsible for some of the Russiagate reporting for Yahoo News, which then went into the Steele dossier. So um, yeah, if you don't check out my article, that's fine. I do highly encourage you guys to read the other articles though. So that's all we have today. Hope you all have a great weekend.